Nuclear War Survival Skills, Chapter 4 continued, page 38. Favorable to evacuation. You live in a highest risk or high risk area. You have transportation. This means a car and enough gasoline, and roads are open to a considerably lower risk area. You are in fairly good health or can evacuate with someone capable of taking care of you. Your work is not of the kind that your community depends on, such as a policeman, fireman, or telephone operator. You have some tools with which to build or improve a fallout shelter. You also have water, containers, food, clothing, etc., adequate for life in the area to which you would go. Unfavorable to evacuation. You live outside a highest risk or high risk area and could build an expedient fallout shelter and make other survivable preparations where you live. You have no means of transportation, or you believe that roads are likely to be blocked by the time you make your decision. You are sick, decrepit, or lack the will to try to survive if things get tough. You cannot suddenly leave your home area for several days without hurting others. You lack the tools, etc., that would be helpful, but not necessarily essential to successfully evacuation. Instructions for building expedient fallout and blast shelters, and for making expedient life support equipment are given in following chapters. The reader is advised to study all of this book carefully before making up his mind regarding basic survival action. The need for an evacuation checklist. A good flyer, no matter how many years he has flown, runs through a checklist covering his plane before taking off. Similarly, a citizen preparing under crisis pressures to do something he has never done before, evacuate, should use a checklist to be sure that he takes with him the most useful of his available possessions. A family planning to use an expedient shelter or basement at or near home also should use the evacuation checklist on the following page to make sure needed survival items are not overlooked. The family of 6, pictured in figure 4.3, used the evacuation checklist given below to select the most useful things that could be carried in and on their small car. They assembled categories of items in separate piles. Then they assembled categories of items in they selected some items to take with them from each pile. They were able to leave their home 76 minutes after receiving the evacuation checklist. Following chapters of this book include descriptions of this family's success in evacuating, building a pole-covered trench shelter, and living in it continuously for 77 hours. Page 39. Evacuation checklist. Includes items for building or improving shelters. Loading procedure. Make separate piles for each category except categories 1 and 5. Then load one car with some items from each category, taking something much as can be safely carried and being careful something leave room for all passengers. A. The most needed items. Category number 1. Survival information. Shelter building and other nuclear survival instructions. Maps. All available small battery-powered radios and extra batteries. A fallout meter such as a homemade KFM, see Appendix C, and writing materials. Category number 2, tools. Shovel, pick, saw. A bow saw is best. Axe or hatchet. File knife, pliers, and any other tools specified in the building instructions for the shelter planned. Also, take work gloves. Category number 3, shelter building materials. Rainproofing materials such as plastic, shower curtains, cloth, etc., as specified in the instructions for the type of shelter planned. Also, unless the weather is very cold, a homemade shelter ventilating pump, such as a CAP, I guess is the acronym, or the materials to build one. See Appendix B. Category number 4, water. Small filled containers plus all available large polyethylene trash bags, smaller plastic bags, and pillowcases. Water purifying material such as Clorox, and a teaspoon for measuring. Category number 5, peacetime valuables. Money, credit cards, negotiable securities, valuable jewelry, checkbooks, and the most important documents kept at home. Evacuation may be followed not by nuclear war, but by continuing unstable nuclear peace. Category number 6, light, flashlights, candles, materials to improvise cooking, such as oil lamps, 2 clear glass jars of about 1 pint size cooking oil, cotton string for wicks. See Chapter 11, light, kitchen matches, and a moisture-proof jar for storing matches. Category number 7, clothing, cold weather boots, overshoes, and warm outdoor clothing, even in summer, since after an attack, these would be unobtainable. Raincoats and ponchos, wear work clothes and work shoes. Category number 8, sleeping gear, a compact sleeping bag or 2 blankets per person. Category number 9, food. Food for babies, including milk powder, cooking oil, and sugar, has the highest priority. Compact foods that require no cooking are preferred. Include at least 1 pound of salt, available vitamins, a can and bottle opener, a knife, and 2 cooking pots with lids, 4-quart size preferred. For each person, 1 cup, 1 bowl, and 1 large spoon. Also, a bucket stove, or minimum materials for making a bucket stove, a metal bucket, 10 all-wire coat hangers, a nail, and a cold chisel or screwdrivers. See Chapter 9, food. Category number 10, sanitation items. Plastic film or plastic bags in which to collect and contain excrement. A bucket or plastic container for urine. Toilet paper, tampons, diapers, and soap. Category number 11, medical items. Aspirin, a first aid kit, all available antibiotics and disinfectants. Special prescription medicines, if essential to a member of the family. Potassium iodide, for protection against radioactive iodine. See Chapter 13. Spare eyeglasses and contact lenses. Category number 12, miscellaneous. 2 square yards of mosquito netting or insect screen with which to screen the shelter openings if insects are a problem. Insect repellents, a favorite book or 2. B, some useful items to take if car space is available. Number 1, additional tools. Number 2, a tent. a small camp stove, and some additional kitchen utensils. Page 40. Figure 4.3. 6 members of a Utah family arriving at a rural shelter building site 64 miles from their urban home. Evacuating by car. The small car shown in figure 4.3 was skillfully loaded for a safe evacuation trip. To make room for supplies, the back seat was left at home. The load on top of the car included blankets, a small rug, and a small tent, all made of springy materials, which kept the load from becoming compacted and working loose under the 1/4 inch nylon ropes tightened around it. The 2 loop-ended ropes went over the load and around the top of the car, passing over the tops of the closed doors. Using muscle power. Hazards of evacuation would include highways blocked by wrecks and stalled vehicles. If leadership and know-how were provided, the muscle power of people usually could quickly clear a highway. During a major Chinese evacuation before advancing Japanese armies in World War II, I observed Chinese using only muscle power quickly clear a mountain road of wrecks and other obstructions. Americans can do the same if someone convinces them that they can do it, as provided by a wintertime episode on Monarch Pass over the Continental Divide in Colorado. At least 100 vehicles were held up after a large wrecking truck overturned on the icy highway. The patrolmen were doing nothing until I told them how the Chinese handled such a situation. The patrolmen then called for volunteers from among the delayed motorists to lift the overturned truck back onto its wheels. In less than 15 minutes, about 50 people had combined their muscle power and opened Monarch Pass to traffic. Citizens should take direct action to keep traffic moving during a crisis evacuation. Making an expedient or permanent shelter instead of evacuating. Millions of Americans have homes within very large urban industrial areas, probably not all of which would be subjected to blast and fire dangers. Many whose homes are in the suburbs or adjacent towns in these metropolitan areas could, I'm going to end it right there.